Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today I have with me Harry Malos, who is a counselor and psychologist. And today's topic is about anxiety and fears, and that is quite common, isn't it?
Absolutely. Anxiety is a very, very common thing, Paul, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because we all at times feel anxious, and it is normal for us to feel anxious. It's not always a out of control disorder.
In your work environment, how big is that problem of anxiety and fears today?
Well, as I said, generally we are geared up in our structure to have anxiety. It is a warning that something may happen. We can talk about the fight or flight syndrome that some psychologists refer to. It's from prehistoric times when we either fight for our existence or run away from it. And that's what anxiety is. It's a warning that something's about to happen.
Am I right to say it is part of a sort of instinctive sort of reaction, isn't it?
It's exactly right to say it's an instinct, an inbuilt instinct.
Okay.
And it's like an alarm. It's warning you of something that may happen.
All right. And how can we understand? How I can understand anxiety in my own life, or fears, or phobias that become a problem?
Yeah. Well, it's true that generally anxiety is run or fueled by fear of something may happen, that catastrophizing something that may occur. It's always based on the truth about how we feel what may happen, or how we think of what may happen.
That means that this is connected to traumas in my society, in my previous experiences. Is it what causes it?
Or initiates? It can be through traumas, but it's not necessarily just through traumas. We can have a predisposition gene that causes us to be more susceptible to anxiety. It could be the way we've been brought up. It could be the environment we lived. It could be the way we think. It could be or a trauma that has caused us.
If it can be part of our gene, that means has it really influence in our physical? Can influences me physically?
Yeah. Yes. There are three systems to anxiety, and one are bodily sensations. We can be anxious, and the signals are bodily signals, such as sweaty hands, a racy heartbeat, nausea, stomach churning. These are bodily symptoms, but they're not only just bodily symptoms. It could be behavioural symptoms as well. We're afraid to go out. We behave in a way that controls our life. We can't work, we can't socialise. So there are types of behaviour that are symptoms to anxiety. Or it could be a combination of cognition. We think that the worst thing will happen. It's all centred around how we think.
And how we think around our own fears.
That's right.
That means my own fears lead me to this behaviour, as you just mentioned, or bodily expression, and or thinking expression or something.
Yeah, all those things are systems of anxiety.
Okay.
So thinking, you have irrational thoughts, you catastrophize situation, you say, if I don't perform a particular duty, the worst thing will happen. Okay. If I don't wash my hands, which is very common to obsessive compulsive disorder, it's a form of anxiety. If I don't wash my hands 100 times, the worst thing will happen, or that I will get germs, or I will die, or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, there are those three different systems.
All right.
But generally, they're all fueled by fear.
All right. And fear, we're talking about any type of fear. Yeah, because in our society today, we hear a lot of abuse, for example. Abuse either from those who come as asylum seekers, for example, around the world. This is an international problem, this one. And a lot of them, they do suffer with the sort of depression and anxieties.
Yep.
That's part of it. We're talking about other fears from the social norm and or traumas, or could be a simple fear of the spiders or something.
That's right. That fears is what fuels anxiety. But there are different situations to the symptoms. For example, you mentioned trauma. Yes, we can be traumatized and have anxiety at later years.
Okay.
That started from that trauma.
Okay.
Okay. Or we can have genes that cause us to emotionally be more susceptible to not able to regulate our emotions. That's what anxiety does as well. We cannot regulate our emotions. We cannot balance them. So when we fear to the extreme for a long period of time. We can't bring it back down to a balance.
We're going to talk later on about the sort of some remedies, but at the moment you said in our genes, that means without me having any inclination, but physically I can have the influence from my own genes.
Yes.
Having fears.
Or having anxieties.
Or anxieties.
Or being susceptible to anxiety.
That means that my own fears will lead me easier to be anxious.
Yeah. Okay. Fears is generated or associated or collaborated with that if you don't do something, or if you do something, the worst will happen.
Okay.
We don't want to go out because we fear that a train will run us or a bus will hit us. So it is all fear-based, and if we avoid it, we get anxious when we have to do it, because we know that if we do that, something worse will happen.
Very quickly, can this one end up to depression?
Yeah, although I'm glad you said, because anxiety is different to depression.
Okay.
Anxiety, as I said, is always fuel-based and of what may happen. Yes. Whereas depression, you are already in there.
Ah, all right.
You're already in the place and you can't get out. Okay. That's a general difference or contrast to anxiety. But yes, for a prolonged period of anxiety can lead you to depression, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have touched upon the definition of anxiety and fears, and we're going to come back shortly with the impact of anxiety and fears in our lives.
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe and warm? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 Oz Help.
Welcome back. And today's topic is about anxiety and fears. We have discussed about the definition of those two, but what is the impact? With us today is Harry Malos, who is the counselor and psychologist. Now, we did discuss about the phobias and that they lead to our anxieties. Now, how severe is the impact in my life? Let's take in my social activities.
Yep.
And if I've got that.
Yep. Social anxiety, as you call it, has different impacts. The social anxiety is that you feel that you don't have the confidence to perform.
Okay.
So you lack confidence. And as you lack confidence, it actually builds more anxiety.
All right.
So it's like a cycle. You don't have the confidence to socialize, to have a normal social activity, and that confidence leads to more anxiety. More anxiety leads to more lack of confidence. So you don't want to go out. You don't want to go to work because you think your performance will be tested and would be found short, or you don't have the skills to communicate, or you will fail at a particular discussion, or you.
Then I become a sort of antisocial and I isolate myself.
You isolate yourself. They are the behavioural to one of the systems of anxiety. Remember, there are the two, but behavioural symptoms are generally about the phobia of performing, or the phobia of fearing something will happen, or that you might get hurt, or that you might even die.
And then in that isolation, I suppose, can lead me to loneliness later on, isn't it?
That's a lot of people.
And that's another issue.
That's another
altogether.
issue, but a very, very relevant issue.
Yes.
That people who isolate themselves are very lonely people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's definitely. And also, we mentioned about irrational thinking.
Yes.
That anxiety can lead me into irrational thinking.
That's right.
An example of that can it be, for example, I'm a student and I've got exams.
Yes.
And as you mentioned before, I catastrophize everything.
That's right.
How does this work?
Well, you may have an inclination that you think is a small issue, but because of your anxiety, it's built up from a small little issue to a mountain.
Okay.
And you build mountains over small issues.
That means I can be a good student, but the anxiety in itself will cause me to
feel like you're not a good student, or that you haven't.
I'm a failure or something.
That you're a failure, or that you are not good enough to sit in the exam, or that you haven't studied, or the exam's going to be too difficult, or it's going to be on covering other issues that you haven't studied. So you think the worst will happen.
Okay, that means
that's why we get the word catastrophizing.
That means I really distort the truth of being a good student.
Spot on word. It's irrational thinking.
Okay.
Where we think the worst will happen, and generally speaking, the worst never happens. But that alone does not stop them feeling less anxious.
Then in this sort of example, I can be a parent, for example, and I have only negative things when my child goes out tonight, and I've got fears all the time that.
So your own anxiety can be transformed into another person by you always saying that the worst thing will happen, because that's how you feel.
Okay, that means I feel this way, and
therefore I'm warning you that this will happen to you.
Then in this case, my anxiety has an impact to the other person.
It's exactly
make their life miserable.
Yes,
next to me.
That's it's an interrelational thing. Yes, so it impacts other people in your family. Yeah.
Yeah. Then, is it a case that I can have anxiety because we have mentioned about the physical reaction as well, bodily reaction.
Yes.
That bodily reaction, is it always there, or I can have anxieties without that bodily reaction?
It comes and goes. It's always there, but it comes and goes in spurts of whether you feel high or low. It's always there. But how do we measure? That's a good question. How do we measure that you are actually having bodily sensations that's the definition of anxiety? Well, when these bodily sensations stop you from being social, when they stop you from performing normal activity, when they stop you from sleeping, when they stop you from or make it difficult for you to go to work, these bodily sensations then are referred to as anxiety.
Okay. But the means can be isolated as bodily reaction, which is doesn't have to be the same time as the thinking, irrational thinking, and or behavior. Can be in isolation and all together.
Yes, you can have a combination of both. Or usually they're separated, but you can feel so nauseous. That's a bodily sensation of anxiety, that you feel you're just going to vomit. And you cannot go out of the house because you're going to be sick.
What will be if there is something, a simple idea that can tell me that goes because of my anxiety rather than the other person or my environment.
Oh, so you're saying
How can identify?
How can you
see it in myself,
See it in
the
yourself.
anxiety,
Okay. Yeah.
because sometimes I might have irrational thinking, but
Yes.
and I convince myself it is your fault, it's not mine. It's my environment's fault rather than my anxiety.
I think what you're trying to say is, as a very famous psychologist said, nothing is to be feared. It is
Yes.
only to be understood.
Okay.
So the more we understand what is happening to us,
All right.
the better we develop our own skills to cope with it. Remember early on I said that anxiety is very general. It's very democratic. It happens to everybody. So we can't avoid it.
Okay.
So there's no cure, no pill. Here's this pill, it'll stop you from feeling anxious. Even if it does other things. What we can do is learn how to cope with it.
That means, so far we said that anxiety is quite common.
Yes, it is very common.
It is quite common. Now, anxiety comes from fears,
Yes.
and then that has, of course, impact to those around me.
That's right.
And of course, into my own development or understanding.
That's right.
But you already touched the point of knowledge.
Yes.
And in the next segment, we're going to discuss some remedies or avenues how we can cope better knowingly
Yeah.
of my anxiety.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you for being with us. Please join us after the break.
Imagine not seeing the world you live in. Macular disease is Australia's leading cause of blindness. Donate now to Macular Disease Foundation Australia. Call 1800 111 709 or visit mdfoundation.com.au.
Welcome back. You're watching NAT Chat, and the third part of our program today in the topic of fears and anxieties is remedies, coping mechanisms. With us, Harry Malos, counselor and psychologist. Harry, how can I face my own fears? Is there any mechanism that can help me to channel myself into remedy of my own anxieties?
Yeah. Well, facing your fears is an interesting topic. I think more than facing them, you need to equip yourself of being aware of what's going on, understanding. And understanding, if we're talking about anxiety, there are some myths associated with anxiety, very common myths. For example, people who are feeling anxious or have anxiety think that they're going crazy, that think that they're going to be institutionalized in a ward. You're not going crazy. You're not going to go into a ward, and you're definitely not insane because you're feeling crazy, because you're feeling anxious. Another thing is that, am I losing control? Am I losing control of my life? No, again, it's not that you're losing control. It's a warning signal that you fear something might happen. Remember the definition of what anxiety is about. Another thing is, am I having a heart attack? I'm about to die. You're not having a heart attack. You're not about to die. So understanding these things helps you along the way to cope with it.
That means that the correct question to myself would be to identify the way I act as an anxious person in my behavior and or in my bodily reaction,
Yes.
or my irrational thinking.
Yeah.
As soon as I identify that, I try to talk about it and have more knowledge about it, isn't it?
That's right. Being aware of it, being aware that, okay, if you normally catastrophize a situation, you kind of bring doubt to the doubt itself. You say, well, hang on, is it really true? Is this what happened last time I was out? Did I get run over by a bus? Or what are the statistics of, putting awareness to why you're feeling that way can help you cope.
All right. And there is the truth about shall set you free is a written quote.
Yeah.
And that will help me to obviously that knowledge will help me to open an avenue of escaping.
Yes. Yes, it does, because we become desensitized to the hold that anxiety has, or the fear that anxiety has.
But
so if you're afraid to go out, for example, to the milk bar, and you're afraid to go out, one of the first steps to desensitize is to go outside the front door. And nothing happened, then you come back in. The next step is you go a little further down the road, and slowly you become desensitized to your fears. That's another coping.
Is there any medical treatment to the physical anxieties, such as if I have perfuming, sweating, or something, or my heart sort of begins to go all over the place?
Definitely, there are, and we don't like to profess as counsellors that you should take medication unless it's totally uncontrollable. We like to think that a counselling session and awareness can actually bring you to coping or transform you to a better place. But yes, there are. Obviously, when you can take medication these days for anything, but that just stops the symptom. It doesn't address the cause.
Okay. Talking about the different types of remedies here, that means the role of the counsellor in this case is to help me to have more faith against my fear, isn't it?
More understanding that it's the fear that's holding you and gripping you with this fear of what might happen. And often when we face our fears, they lose the hold that they have on us. They don't have the same control over us. It's another way of coping by understanding. Because
I try to think, because we discuss about that my mind when it is full of anxieties will catastrophize everything. How I can reverse that? Sort of creating hope of something.
Yes.
And that means the counselors, from the counselor's point of view, I gain knowledge, isn't it?
You gain awareness of what is happening to you, and
why, and what type of fear creates that,
and what type of fear creates it, and what kind of system it is that you're into, and together with a number of tools. One that's very common is we use this as term, as I said, desensitizing the client to actually accept that this is not as harmful as they thought it would be.
Okay, and because there are people that have been through the trauma of wars, and they have come even to this country in Australia, and their experience is very traumatic experience. In those sort of extreme situations, how you can sort of try to bring them back into normal thinking without them fearing their next door neighbor?
Yeah, well, you're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder,
and
that's another topic altogether. But very, very common. It's and that can give you panic attacks. It can they can come very quickly and go very quickly, or you are continuously, chronically traumatized all the time. It's not just anxiety, but it's also that you've been traumatized by something that you've seen, something that you've experienced, or something that you heard. And that causes you to shut down.
Possibly it's another topic for the next time to talk about. And it's very in psychology, I think there's endless types of topics we can talk about and bring examples on. Is there anything else that you would like to conclude about the anxiety to the people who are watching us now, and how they could face it better?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would like to leave them with this encouraging that anxiety was meant to be something of a warning for us in order to protect us. Remember that it was not there to be our enemy. However, when anxiety is fed too much, then it becomes an obstacle for us to live a normal life. That's the difference.
And then what am I going to do when I identify that?
Then you seek a counsellor. You try to understand what is happening to you, and don't keep it to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us today, and we'll definitely talk again. Thank you for being with us. You have been watching NAT Chat. See you next week.
Good evening, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. This is 6 News. Tonight, they shall not grow old. Anzac Day 2020 looking very different around the country, but small commemorations still went ahead. Virgin Australia enters voluntary administration. What now for the country's second largest airline with 16,000 jobs at stake? And also tonight,
one of the worst incidents I've seen in a very long time.
The state grieving after 4 police officers were hit and killed by a truck on the Eastern Freeway.
There are really no words.
As police reveal the names of the officers killed and the driver they pulled over, as investigations continued to find out what happened. 6 News starts now. First tonight, Anzac Day looked very different around the country this year, although small commemorations still went ahead. Let's go live to Jack Hahn in Sydney. Jack, while we couldn't celebrate our diggers in person, we never forgot about them.
Yeah, no, we didn't forget about our diggers, but in the age of coronavirus, gathering at the RSL is a no-no. Instead, Anzac Day took a new dawn in the form of live streaming services, televising services, and playing them on the radio. Instead of congregating at the RSL, folks congregated on their driveways to pay their respect for diggers past and present. We have seen stunning scenes from around the country of servicemen, average people, and bagpipe players, music players, everyone you could imagine gathering at the front of their house on their driveways, paying respect to the diggers past and present. And this comes as the coronavirus is taking a very positive turn in Australia, with the number of cases on a downwards trend. That is good news, and that is the sign that we are on the path of getting out of this social distancing that we know of. A country that is not yet on the path of getting out of social distancing, yet is already plotting steps to get out of the social distancing. Well, that's the United States, with a number of governors, including a governor of Georgia who is planning to reopen a number of businesses like hair salons and tattoo parlors, as well as movie theaters and bowling alleys at the end of the week. And the US president calling for a number of democratic states to liberate themselves from the oppressive nature of the governors. And we have seen these stunning protests from a number of these state capitals, where a number of Trump supporters have been gathering with large signs saying that Jesus Christ is the vaccine and that the coronavirus doesn't exist, citing the Constitution as their pass to not follow the social distancing laws that have been enforced by the governors. And they, of course, are flocking their Second Amendment rights in the midst of the coronavirus. Now, the CDC is warning that this could be dire for those people protesting. They are not observing social distancing regulations, and that could have some very dire consequences for those people. The US president also weighing in on these reports that North Korea's Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un is in a grave condition. A number of media outlets are reporting that he is in a grave condition, some even saying that he has coronavirus. We should point out that the South Korean government, the Chinese government, the BBC and Reuters dispute all of these reports. And a little closer to home, this comes as Virgin Australia seems to be the latest victim of the coronavirus. They will be going into receivership, with many people saying that the future looks very clouded for the airline. They have billions of dollars of debt. So that means the Virgin that we know will no longer be Virgin, with a potential name change on the cards if it makes it through, or the airline will potentially close.
Yeah, and Jack, I love these suggestions from the Batuta advocate. Easy Airlines, Experienced Australia, or how about this one from Media Spy? I think the image there speaks for itself. Thank you very much, Jack. Time to take a look at what's trending online, and there's outrage growing towards Richard Poussey, the mortgage broker accused of fleeing the scene of the crash on the Eastern Freeway and then posting graphic photos of it online. Video has emerged of his Porsche speeding down the same freeway last month, although there is no suggestion he was driving the car. The accident killed 4 police officers, which is the most amount of officer lives lost in a single incident in the state's history, the previous being in 1878 when Ned Kelly shot 3 police officers near Mansfield in Victoria's north. As we mentioned before, the 4 police officers tragically killed earlier this week have been named, and they are Leading Senior Constable Lynette Taylor, Constable Glenn Humphreys, Senior Constable Kevin King, and Constable Josh Presney. Victoria has come together to remember them with major landmarks lit up in blue in solidarity, including Flinders Street Station, the MCG and State Parliament, just to name a few. And we will remember them. That is 6 News for this Sunday evening. It's been a tough week for everyone, and as always, I thank you for your company. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Lest we forget, good night.
Performance poetry comes your way with Red Lobster every Monday night at 9:30. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme. Om.
Hello and welcome to Harmony in Diversity. I'm David McLaughlin, the program's producer. Recently I had a chance to interview Roberto Catalano from the Focolare movement. He is the director of the movement's Centre for Interreligious Dialogue in Rome. He was out here attending a conference at the Australian Catholic University, and I caught up with him at a Focolare event the weekend before the conference. Roberto, first of all, can you tell me a bit of background of the Focolare movement and also of yourself?
Regarding the Focolare movement, we can say that it's a movement which was born in Italy way back in the 40s, mid-40s during the war. It originated from the experience of a young lady at the time, Chiara Lubick. She was 23 at the time she started this experience. She died in 2008 at the age of 88. It was a gospel-based experience along with a few other companions, a few other friends. A rediscovery of the gospel as a way of life. The gospel is a way to reach God. We have to think that they were all Christians. Actually, they were all Catholics. And it was an experience which brought about a strong change in their life, because the gospel was not to be rediscovered only as a book to be read or to be meditated upon, but a book to be lived in the daily life. Taking one sentence at a time of the scripture, they really made a difference in their family life, in their working place, in their schools. This brought a great impact on their companions, family members, and in the span of a few months there was a remarkably big group of people who were living this experience. It was a Christian experience, nothing more than that. Obviously, at the end of the war, this spread all over Italy, And little they realize that they have given life to a real movement, because it's a movement based on spirituality. Spirituality in the sense that from the gospel they have taken with a certain emphasis a few sentences, the ones underlying love, charity, and the ones aiming at the last prayer of Jesus, Father, that all may be one. So we could say love, charity as a way to achieve unity. The movement today is spread all over the world, I would say in all countries of the world. There are different degrees of commitment inside the movement. There are small communities of consecrated members, men and women, who still have a lay outlook, they have a profession, they draw all their salaries in common, and they live like a family, but of consecrated men and consecrated women. There is a large number of families. There are youth, children, teenagers. There are also people involved in what we call the human fields, so professionals, unionists, people at all different levels in society who want to make an impact in society through living the gospel. And finally, we have also priests, nuns, religious. Within the movement, we have a strong, let's say, ecumenical involvement. There are people of around 300 churches who are members or close to the movement. There are people of different religions. So we have also a strong experience of interfaith dialogue. And also people who claim not to have any kind of religious affiliation. So the movement is defined not so much as a lay movement, but as an ecclesial movement, in the sense that there are all the elements of what is the Catholic Church today, from the different vocations, the different commitments, and the different kinds of dialogue and commitment in society and in the church.
What do you think attracts people to the Focolare?
But what really attracts people to the Focolare is usually the witness that people give as individual in their places of where they live, where they work, where they operate, where they teach, where they learn, I mean wherever they are. And secondly, attracts people also, let's say, the community witness. When members of the Focolare are together, they give a special emphasis to the commandment of Jesus, especially the new commandment of Jesus, the one underlining mutual love. This mutual love, according to the gospel, makes God's presence possible in a community, in a group, and this attracts people. Now, when you speak of God's presence, it's obviously not a visible reality, but it's a spiritual reality which speaks of joy, enthusiasm, a deepening of the scriptures. So all fruits who make God's presence felt among people, and this attracts also people around in society or in the church or in different churches.
Tell us a bit about your journey in the Focolare.
Yes, I'm an Italian. I was born in northern Italy. Like a teenager, I had my own likings and dislikings. I was very fond of sport, very fond of studies. I was very dissatisfied because I realized that the ideals or the goals that I tried to pursue were short-lived. So at a certain moment I met people of the Focolare. I was not particularly impressed by the Focolare itself, but by the youth. I noticed a great amount of serenity, peace of mind, and somehow I wanted to be like them. So that attracted me. Then I became friends with some of them. Friendship turned into a deep spiritual experience, which never kept aside the human dimension of our life. So along with this spiritual experience, there was a great sense of friendship also, which bound us together. And then in the course of time, I decided to dedicate my life to the Focolare, to this idea of bringing love and unity around the world. And I lived for almost 30 years in India, where I was in a community of the Focolare and gave birth to the Focolare movement within the Catholic Church in India, and then the interfaith dialogue with some Hindus, Sikhs, and people of other religions in the subcontinent. And now for the last 6 years, I'm working at the center of the movement, as you said, And I'm in charge, along with another person, a Korean lady, in charge of our Center for Interfaith Dialogue in different parts of the world.
After over 25 years of broadcasting into homes across Australia, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to switch off community television stations by June 30 this year. Community television provides an open access, free-to-air platform for Australians to connect, to learn, to educate, to express themselves, and showcases our diverse and vibrant local communities. But on July 1, it will be gone from the airways forever. Instead, it will be replaced by up to 5 years of white noise. The federal government has no alternative planned use for the spectrum community TV occupies and will be unable to do anything in its place for years to come. There is no upside and no explanation. We ask Minister Fletcher to show his support for the remaining stations and to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
Tell us about how the movement's involvement in interfaith dialogue came about.
Now, I always like to say that the involvement of the movement in interfaith dialogue was not a project, meaning it was not conceived and planned around a table with a draft. It came as an experience, it came, I like to say, as prophecy, in the sense that the founder of the movement, Chiara Lubich, at a certain moment met people of different religions, and she met these people in a very, sometimes casual way, other times in a more planned way. And through the friendship with these people, she developed a very constructive dialogue, for instance, with Buddhists, in a second moment with Muslims, then with Hindus. And so a sort of we can call it a bilateral dialogue started between Christians of the Focolare and members of these religions. I must say also that the Focolare developed an experience of interfaith dialogue not only because of the founders' involvement and role, which was definitely crucial, but developed interfaith dialogue as an experience of people of the Focolare who were living in different contexts, which were not Christian. I give an example of the Algeria in Northern Africa, in the Maghreb region, where people are practically Muslims, 99.99%. And some members of the Focolare happened to be there. They developed, through a teacher, friendship with some children. These children spoke about these teachers at home. Parents went over to see what these Christians were living. There was a friendship which was born, flourished, and today in Algeria the Focolare movement is made up mainly by Muslims who are not friends of the Focolare. They are members of the Focolare because they work together with us without any kind of distinctions, apart from what are the most typical religious dimensions, like prayer. Of course, we continue praying according to our own traditions. They live the Quran, we live the Gospel. But we work together. We feel that we are part of the same family. Likewise, in other countries of the world, people met members of other religions. A friendship was born, sometimes because of help, service, and then dialogue developed into collaboration and also at the academic level.
So in Algeria, where members of the Focolare are predominantly Muslim, how was it received that this Catholic movement, very much a part of the Catholic Church, integrated into an Islamic country, into Islam? How was the movement received there by Islam?
Look, of course, when we speak of Islam, more than speaking of Islam, I would speak of Muslims. I'll give you an instance. I said before that these children who came across people of the Focolare were students of one of the members of the Focolare community in a city called Tlemcen. And they used to go over to the teacher's place in the afternoon to play, to exchange views. Now, the father of one of these boys happened to be the local imam, who was rather worried that his son used to go to visit foreigners and on top of it, Christians. So he was afraid of these Christians sooner or later to propose a conversion to the son. So he went over to this place to check what was going on. And he realized that it was a spiritual experience. So he became a promoter within his Muslim congregation, his Muslim group, of this kind of dialogue with Christians. So it is thanks to him that the movement developed this kind of dialogue, because he offered a sort of a guarantee that we could dialogue and be brothers and sisters without the threat, let's say, of a conversion on either side. Likewise, in other parts of the world, the experience we propose, it's an experience of a meeting of identities. So in order to dialogue, we must be true Christians, the others have to be true Muslims, true Buddhists, and then we can meet. So this is the integration that we bring about, an integration of identities, not to create a confusion.
So you think in religious dialogue that what is necessary is both to have this desire for unity, but also be very clear about one's own faith. It's not about giving up your faith or the other person giving up theirs, but having both?
Yes, absolutely yes. Dialogue, exactly as you said, we must have clear in mind a goal, which is, I would say, the unity of or the oneness of the human family, because we have one Father, who is God, and we are all brothers and sisters. So there is a oneness, a unity of the human family. This dimension of universal brotherhood has to be regained, and we must be very much aware of it. On the other side, we don't achieve this if we are not really clear about who we are. Dialogue is impossible if there are no clear identities. Chiara Lubich, whenever she spoke to people of other religions, she was always absolutely clear about her Christian faith, without a compromise of any kind. What is the difference is the fact that while exposing the Christian faith to people of other religions, we can do it out of love, out of concern, with a sort of prudence, but also without imposing, but by proposing our faith. What sometimes the others don't like, or we don't like in other religions when they do it, is the imposition of a certain faith or a certain culture. But when we propose it as a gift, keeping into account the golden rule, do to the others what you would like the others do unto you, then all this is acceptable.
Hey guys, what'd you like?
Coffee, thanks.
2 coffees, please. What kind of coffee would he like?
Cappuccino.
Cappuccino. What can I get for you?
I'll have a coffee, thanks.
Yeah, 2 coffees, please. Awesome. And what kind of coffee would you like?
Cappuccino, thanks.
2 cappuccinos.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
Tell us how the dialogue works between people of faith and people who we would call in the West atheists or agnostics.
Exactly as you said, this is a dialogue which is taking place mainly, let's say, in Europe, in other parts of the world, with a clear Western approach or a Western culture. Atheism, agnosticism are phenomena which are typical of the Western world, and I would say also of the Christian world. It's let's say an unfolding also of the Christian culture, which ended up also in atheism, agnosticism. Now, let's say that the experience is the same I mentioned before. People who meet Christians who are committed, they don't impose their Christian life, they propose their experience, but they propose not through, let's say, a religious-based agenda or protocol, but rather on values which are widely shared and can be accepted by people of different religions, but also people who don't have a religious reference or affiliation. So the value, for instance, of brotherhood, of fraternity, of peace, of cooperation, of collaboration, all these values are common to all human beings. The same golden rule, which is common to all cultures and religions, do to the others what you would like the others do unto you, is something which can be accepted by everyone. You don't need to have a religion in order to accept this, though it was born into a religious context. But, for instance, this golden rule was not born within a Christian context. Probably the first formulation came from Confucius in China and from Zoroaster in Persia, what is Iran today. So this can be acceptable by anyone. And on these values, on this idea of the golden rule, we can work together for universal brotherhood also with people who have no religious affiliations.
Now, you're here in Australia for a conference at the Australian Catholic University. Can you tell us about how you invited to that and what is the intention of this conference?
Yeah. Now, I learned from the conference from, let's say, a professor here at the Australian Catholic University, Professor Jonathan Tan, who is a well-known theologian at a world level. We met last year for a conference in Nairobi. I happened to moderate the panel discussion where he was the keynote addresser. And at the end he told me, but why don't you come for this conference next year? I proposed the title of the paper, it was accepted immediately. And in the end I'm very happy to be here because it's the first time I come this side of the world, to New Zealand and to Australia. And you know, when you travel, it's always extremely enriching to meet people, and also at the academic level to meet other views, other perspectives, other experiences. So I've seen that the agenda of the conference is very rich. There are speakers from different parts of the world, but there are speakers also from this part of the world. And the conference is on the Second Vatican Council. This year we are celebrating the 50 years of the conclusion of the Vatican Council, and interfaith dialogue. So the different parts of dialogue that developed in the last few years. So I will offer a paper on something which I notice more and more. I belong to the Focolare movement, a Catholic movement, engaged in interfaith dialogue, as I said, but there are also other movements in other religions which are engaged in interfaith dialogue. And what is striking are the commonalities that they have. Of course, they are very different from each other because they belong to different cultures and different religions, but they also have very striking commonalities. So my paper will bring into evidence certain commonalities among the Focolare movement, as Christian movement, about the Risho Kosekai, who is a Mahayana Buddhist movement, and the Fethullah Gülen, his Met, which is a Turkish Muslim movement.
Now, you mentioned the Second Vatican Council, which occurred in the 1960s. And some people think it was essentially the ecumenical council, the council that promoted the idea of interreligious, interfaith dialogue. How do you think that has progressed since the Second Vatican Council?
Look, about this is very interesting because people say that the council still has to be fulfilled. And probably yes, because the council was really prophetic. It was much ahead of its times and opened completely new avenues, especially at the ecumenical interfaith dialogue. So also we have to be sincere. We don't realize how much things have changed in these 50 years. The change has been drastic. We can't imagine what the relationship between the faithful of different religions was before the Council. There was practically a lack of mutual acquaintance, still clashes. The Catholic Church is still abode on the idea of outside the Church there is no salvation. In these 50 years, things have changed through documents like Nostetate or Unitatis Redintegratio, which is the document for ecumenism. But change especially because of the experiences of people who engaged and gave their life for dialogue. Recently, a rabbi who is welcoming the Pope in these days in Holy Land said, Rabbi David Rosen, who is a close friend, said, never humanity engaged in interfaith, intercultural dialogue as it is doing today. And definitely, the Council was not the only reason, but definitely played a very important role.
Where do you see the future for interfaith and interreligious dialogue?
I think that the future is bright, in the sense that we have a wide open path in front of us. What is important that we commit ourselves to the cause. Dialogue depends on each one of us. Each one of us is a protagonist and a pioneer of dialogue. So it's up to us, our communities, our congregations, to be convinced that dialogue is possible and to go ahead and to promote it and to live it.
What are some of the things that people can do as individuals to promote this harmony and unity between people of different faiths?
But it's enough to live the daily life with our neighbors, with people like in a society like the Australian society, which is a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious. It's enough to live the golden rule, do to the others what you would like the others do unto you, with the people we meet on every day at work, in school, on the road, on the buses, on the trains. That already establishes bridges of dialogue. Then from bridges we can come to a community of people of different religions. We can work together for projects. And also probably those who are equipped for that can go for a more academic theological dialogue.
That's all for our program this week. Join us again in a week's time. Goodbye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage. Because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, these humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam
Welcome. You're watching Harmony in Diversity, and today we're speaking with Father Peter Karukin. He's a retired Catholic priest and has a specialty in working with asylum seekers, but just as we always start our programs, we'll talk to him about how he became a priest. Thanks for coming in, Father.
My pleasure, Norm.
Like many Catholics, I presume you came into the world from a Catholic family.
I did, yes. Quite a devout family. So yes, my whole upbringing was in the Catholic atmosphere, the home, the school, and as I grew older, the youth group. So yeah, very Catholic.
And was that in one parish, or did you move around?
Yeah, all in the same parish. Yeah, so very much like a Catholic community, and most of our social life and our friendships developed around the church.
Yes, yes. Because in those days it was somewhat different to what it is today, isn't it? Whereas there was being a Catholic or being a Protestant or being a Mason, for that matter, they were quite distinct entities.
They were, yeah, yes.
And so, with your schooling, was there anything that stood out in your schooling which tended to start to lead you towards priesthood, or was it
Oh yes, I think I was always impressed by our teachers. Originally, I started with the sisters, and I moved to the brothers, and then finally I finished with the priests. And so I had plenty of good role models before me, and probably they did have quite an influence in choosing this life.
You did some study though, didn't you? Did you go to university?
Well, I attended the university part-time. I started working in the taxation department, and I was encouraged to do further study. So the subject of commerce was suitable if I wanted a career in the taxation department.
Okay.
But I soon found out that it wasn't my great talent, the world of figures.
Yes. I think there's quite a few people could empathise with that. But it was out of that grew your potential to go into a seminary. How did that happen?
Yeah, I think when I look back, I was talking to the local parish priest whom I liked very much, and he must have been asking me about the study, and I expressed my dissatisfaction with it, and he said to me, "Why don't you consider going into the seminary and studying for the priesthood?" So I think that was the first explicit mention of it.
Yes.
So from that I started to study. I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. So I began to study Latin, which in those days you needed to get into the seminary. So I did that, and I passed that, and then was accepted for the seminary.
When he said priesthood to you, what did that conjure up for you? What did you think being a priest would be like? What was it that attracted you to it?
Oh, I think it was his goodness as a man, and all the experiences that he'd been through. He'd been a chaplain in the war, and there was an aura about him that made his life attractive. I hadn't thought about the difficulties. It was more the kind of like a romanticism about this very special man who had such a special place in the local community.
Yes. And so it evolved out of that.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
What was your time in the seminary like?
Well, I found it hard work because I had a lot of problems with my own personality, and fitting in with a lot of other young men at first proved difficult. But it's a long time. You're there together for 8 years, so I think I grew as a person in that over that time, and in the end, it became quite enjoyable.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But the seminary is a place that you go to so you can get out from.
Yes.
You haven't got a lasting residence there.
Yeah, that's right. So how did this seminary enrich your relationship with God at the centre of that? You'd grown in a Catholic context, and you would have been fairly God conscious, I'd imagine.
Well, it introduced me to prayer, formal prayer, because every day began with a half an hour prayer, which was meditation, silent prayer, and so that formed the habit of a prayerful life.
Yes, right.
And and during the course of time, you get to know Jesus Christ, and so a life is formed really during those 8 years. Right. A way of life is formed, and he is the model.
Yes.
And you work out through the practices of the discipline of the life. You work out how you can grow in that friendship with him.
Right. So it really is a formation of you as an individual. And the other, how many priests would have been in the seminary with you at the time, at your year level?
Kind of the peak years in the seminary. When I first began, there were 33 or 34 in the year that I began. And people, and a lot of the students come and go. They stay for a little while, and then they find that they're suited for something different, and they leave. But there was, I think, at one time we got up to nearly 200 in total in the seminary. So that made them plan to build another college, and they went ahead with that. So yes, but when I became a priest in 1962, there were 10 of us were ordained for Melbourne. So they're lucky to get 2 or 3 now.
Yes, it's a different story now, isn't it? Yes. And so the formation that you went through, and you came out of the seminary as what? What was the level of your enthusiasm for being a priest at that point? Was it something that had really escalated?
I was looking forward to life in the parish, and I found it very interesting and absorbing.
Yes.
And I learned such a lot, because everything in the seminary is pretty well academic.
Yeah.
But once you hit the parish life, it's people. So
and people take up a lot of time, and we've just taken up time, so we'll go for a break and we'll be back. We'll be back.
Hello, I'm here to let you know that Inline Plus will return from late May on Community TV and here on YouTube and Facebook. We will start off with 4 episodes shot in Adelaide, and then we will move on to some programs from Sydney and Melbourne. If you would like to get involved in our Sydney or Melbourne shoots, please get in touch with us now. For further information on the show, please visit inlineplus.net. Until then, we look forward to seeing you then, and bye for now.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
Community television is a part of Australia's media landscape, and it's yours. On July 1, it could be gone from the airwaves forever. In its place, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to replace a vibrant and diverse media sector with years and years and years of white noise. When there is no cost to the Australian government to keep community television on the air, and in the absence of a viable alternative, we ask Minister Fletcher to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
We want to show you what's dangerous about this river, but we can't. That's the problem. You can't see ice-cold water, snags like tree branches or strong currents. So in enjoying our rivers, remember, wear a life jacket, avoid alcohol around water, never swim alone, and learn how to save a life. Our rivers are beautiful, but more Australians drown here than anywhere else. It's simple. Respect the river. Head to royallifesaving.com.au/respect the river for more information.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Father Peter Karukin. He's a retired Roman Catholic priest, and we're talking about his time in the seminary. This formation, it's fascinating to sort of see this group of sometimes up to 400, but 10 men who emerged from the seminary, having been formed over that 8 years. What was the relationship with, say, Jesus Christ at that moment? As you came out of the ceremony, you came out of the seminary, you go into the community, into the parish, and you said you really were looking forward to the people. Was that grow within you? Was that a part of your development, this attachment to people, or did you always have it?
Good question. I think I was more directed towards people than towards the things of the church, because the people really make up the church. They are the church. So I was always interested in them. I was pretty shy of them because you have to, you're dealing with all kinds of people and all ages. And so I was just trying to get a feel for how best I could work with them, or they could work with me. Because I think instinctively, I think when a priest goes into a parish community, and in those days there were big communities that would come to participate in the life of the church, you just instinctively trust, sorting it out whether how much can I trust myself to them, and they also are doing the same thing.
Yes.
Who is this person who has got some power over us and who's meant to be a leader among us? How much can we trust him?
Yes.
So there's a little bit of toing and throwing between the priest and the people. But it's all done instinctively.
Right.
Yeah.
But how does it manifest itself? What sort of things did you do to start to build that trust? That was part of my question about Jesus. Where does Jesus come in that?
Yeah. Well, so in an effort to answer the question, people see you on a Sunday or at the weekend, and especially when they see you in your preaching time, or you're giving the homily at Mass, and I always thought that what they see and hear is what they're getting is me. And I was hoping that they would see the sincerity of my life and my efforts to communicate the Word of God to them. So I think it hasn't been too bad, really.
No. And of course, as a parish priest, okay, there's the Sunday and the weekly masses, but in between that, you do quite a lot of work with people, don't you?
Well, there was always the school, that's brought you into contact with the families. And I used to spend a lot of time at the school because I always found the children very, very good to be with, but they'd also talk about you at home. So you got to know the families, or the families got to know you.
Yes.
And so often they would come and talk to you about their child, or they'd invite you to the home. So you knew then that there was a trusting relationship growing, or a friendly relationship. Yeah, I think that was the great beauty of having the parish school. The children learn to trust you, and then the families also learn to trust you.
Yes. It's that rapport of trust, as you say, both between the priest and the parishioner.
And see, that's what's happened today. I think there's been a loss of that kind of trust now.
Yes.
Because of the abuse within the church. Yeah.
Yes, that's more tragic than you could possibly describe.
Yeah.
What sort of parishes have you served in? You must have been a few.
Yeah, there's a few. Well, I began my life at Frankston, around the peninsula, where it was a very busy place. It was still even in those days, it was still regarded as a little bit of a holiday resort. But the place was growing rapidly as people began to expand, places expanded and schools expanded because people were coming. So I found them very enthralling, really, because it was the first time. And I got such a shock when I've got a letter to tell me that I was being moved. I thought, how could you get moved? How could you move me from here?
I like it.
Yeah. Then I went from to the inner suburbs of Coburg, and that was very different altogether. It was just the one church, whereas at Frankston we had quite a few. And the church at Coburg the back fence was Pentridge.
Oh, right.
And I was there when they made that famous escape, and in the escaping, a warder was killed. So it was a pretty gruesome time, really. And then from there I went to West Footscray, and they had a big hospital there, so that really introduced me into hospital chaplaincy and the pastoral care. So then after that I went out to North Dandenong, which again had a very big hospital, growing rapidly.
Yes.
So that was another time of learning pastoral care, and it was my first introduction into the psychiatric part of the care.
Okay, yes.
So from there, I don't know where I went from there now. I'm just trying to remember. I think I finished up at Kew as an assistant priest there, and I found living in Kew was a great experience, and I had 2 years there. And from there, I became a parish priest. Could put my feet under my own table, and so that was in a place called Hadfield, which is part of East Glenroy.
Oh yes, yes.
Just behind the cemetery, Faulkner Cemetery.
Yeah, behind the Faulkner Cemetery. That gives me an introduction to our next break because it's all about time cemeteries. We'll be back in a moment.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
I want to get the word out to blokes about a little gland called the prostate. It's only the size of a walnut, but it can cause a whole lot of grief. Prostate cancer deaths pretty much equal breast cancer deaths. The problem is, if you wait too long, it may be too late. It took one of my mates. Don't make me angry. Talk to your doctor about your prostate, and if necessary, get it checked. You'd be nuts to leave it to chance.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Father Peter Karukin. He's a retired Catholic priest. We're just running through the parishes he's been in. There's one parish that you mentioned in an earlier conversation, Peter, and that was to do with Pentridge. One of the churches you were in had its back against Pentridge. You were a chaplain there, were you, at one stage?
No, only when the parish priest wasn't available. He coveted that job as the chaplaincy there. So, when he wasn't around, it was my chance to go in. But later on, I became slightly involved in the life of the prison. I became a chaplain at MAP, which is on the corner of Spencer Street and La Trobe Street in the city. And I really enjoyed the time I had there.
Yes.
And I was really glad to go there. It opened my eyes a lot, and also made me realise the goodness that sometimes gets lost in the life of a person, and how some of them pine for it.
Yes. Yes. Well, so what sort of people were you dealing with there?
Well, the men told me there that there were two reasons why most of them were in jail, and those reasons were drugs and women.
Oh, right.
See, domestic violence.
Oh, okay, right.
Separation.
Right, yes.
Yeah, or they fighting with the next partner.
Really? Yes, it's a big source of tension, isn't it?
Ah, yeah.
Did you think you were able to help them? In what ways would you have been able to help them?
Well, for some of them, I'd say, look, would you like me to contact your family? And if they said yes, then I'd get the details from them, and then I would ring their family, either it was mainly their mothers, and the response to those calls was great.
Was it?
Oh yeah. The women were very, very thankful that someone was taking an interest in their son, and also to know that he was supported, and just knowing that someone cared enough to make contact with the family. So I thought, glad I did that.
Yeah, because those guys are not career criminals, are they? They're guys that have...
Some of them are.
Well, some... Yes, well, they're always there, but where they domestic violence is something which has just grown up with them, and they've
so sad, really.
Surrendered to it.
Yeah, and if I may just add a little...
Yeah, sure, please do.
I now work as a chaplain at St Vincent's Hospital 2 days a week, and at the hospital there's a special ward for the men and the women who come from our jails who are unwell, who need special medical care. And once again, I really like going there. I've called in there. I don't stay that long with them, and I only talk to those who want to talk to the priest. But I just say to them, look, I'm the priest, and if you come to St Vincent, you get a doctor and a priest. So I like that. Again, it's the same thing, and especially when the men are not well, or the people are not well, a little bit of spirituality comes out in them. It doesn't matter what religion they are, or what tradition they are, or of not having any. There's a response to a prayer, or to a blessing, or to some other way that we might be able to offer some help.
Yes, it's sort of an issue of vulnerability, isn't it?
Yes,
they're no longer in charge of what's happening.
They're no longer the he-men.
That's right. You mentioned getting in touch with the mothers. What's your experience of those men and their relationship with their fathers?
Many of them wouldn't have seen their dad for years, and they would have grown up without his presence. And sadly, quite a number of them are not sure where their children are either. So it just keeps repeating, the cycle repeating of the absent father. Well, I think you could find that, I would say around about 90% of the people who are in our prisons are products of fatherless homes.
And of course that ties across into religion, doesn't it, in the sense that God the Father, and does that stand, do you think, in the path of their practicing religion?
Yeah, they find it hard to trust a a father because he hasn't always been around for them.
No, that's right.
Whereas we try to say that God is a father who's always around.
Yes.
Who's always interested. And while they might be able to accept that with their mind, but with their heart it's harder because that hasn't been their experience of fatherhood.
No. Either what they've received or what they've given themselves as well.
Yes.
It's
well, they had no model.
No.
Yeah.
That was part of the question earlier on about, he just was coming out of the seminary at this point, but where the model of Jesus, how do you put the model of Jesus before people like that? Or do they respond to the model of Jesus?
Well, I think most of them have a great sense of awe of Jesus. They don't think they are worthy of having a relationship with him. Some of them are able to take hold of the Bible, and that can bring about a transformation in the way that they see themselves and in the way that they can approach God. Because you see, as you know, Jesus was a criminal, was treated as a criminal and tried and executed, sentenced and executed. So if we can get that kind of message over to them, that they've got something familiar to talk about in relationship to Jesus. So I think that they have a great respect for him, but I think overall they feel ashamed to approach him.
Yes, you mentioned at the beginning the significance of roles and inspirational people, even in your entry into the priesthood or the seminary, as having inspiring people around you.
Sure, yeah.
And I'd find it very inspiring if I could talk to you next week. Will you be around next week? Would you come in next week? And we'll talk about your work with refugees.
Okay, sure. I like that. Thank you very much, Norm.
Thanks, Father.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week, and we'll be again speaking with Father Peter about refugees. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts, but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up? Authorised by Australia's Right to Know, Sydney.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
The following program carries an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed.video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
No, look, about 18 months ago, we were working on a section of a film, Blurred Vision, which has a scene called the Grant McCracken Benefit Night down the Greyhound Hotel, which was quite a wild night. Look, in the middle of us sort of working on that, one morning, the filmmaker who's staying at my place got up and he found me in tears. I was just weeping, copious tears, because I'd happened to ring, with time difference, I'd happened to ring my cousin in London, and I got the news that my Scots uncle, Uncle Doug, had passed away, and Uncle Doug was 89, and here's hoping Grant McCracken makes it to 90. Happy birthday, Grant McCracken. Because it's Grant, I'll read this poem from the new book, Rockling King. It has also been turned into a punk song, but I'll just read it. The carrot seller's lament for John Kinsella. A drawn out and a painful end, a vision without edit. For death comes wan and paler still to men with endless credits. He might have taken novelists, false poets by the cellar, but nothing bore the knife as well as quiet John Kinsella. Though difficult to understand as any bard in Garrett, the reader who poured hard enough could hear both stick and carrot. And oh, but he had narratives too fine to be spelled out. He sealed the secrets of his poems like what they were about. His absinthe was a fleshy wine, more the orange than the red. What shall we do for purple prose? Now John Kinsella's dead. They say that arcane poets' laws John published on the net lay out safe paths for vision wise and those you'd best forget. But laws addressed in precedent and genius might sunder, where artistry tells deep unique like bright Kinsella's blunder. Night vision's extreme on carrot juice did for quiet John, it said. What shall we do for purple prose? Now John Kinsella's dead.
This is a momentous day for me, and I thank you all for coming, especially my family and friends. 50. Oh! 50? Whew. I'd never have seen it. This is for my mother and father. Son of a gun. For my parents, Stuart and Yvonne. I am a son. What could I do wrong? What can I do right? I like the sun, though better at night. I am a son, from seed to man, from innocence to stark reality, family security to making it alone. Well, I don't know whether I'm making it alone. The only way to go, though, still need love and tenderness. I am a son, old enough to be the father of one, a daughter I'd equally love, though I'm with no one. I'm all alone. I am a son, with the distance from my parents. Though I'm crying now, I'll see them soon. With each day's dying, I think of them. I am a son. For you, I'll keep on shining.
This is called the 15th of January, 1991. The day is as grey as the immediate future, rain constant as the threat of war, rain thick as the fears of the unemployed, grey outlook from my window as the pamphleteers stuff letterboxes with the junk offers of a leaking economy, a fragment of their soul on each hopeless pamphlet. Clocks from New York to Baghdad shrink toward the 15th of January 1991. Lottery will spin for a singular win and the multitudes lose. Cash shrivels in the hand, crops die in the ground. Sheep are given the final solution, mass graves fill and stomachs empty. Peace seekers set out to the border to join a line of doves between the dogs of war. Blood will rain and the desert will remain barren. The poor will remain hungry and the television constituency will feast on gore and retribution. Stop the war, might as well stop the rain. Feed the poor, let them eat straw. Is that a ray of sunlight? No, it is a missile. The church is empty and the shop shelves groan. Have you been here before, Father? What shall we do, Mother? Shall we weep? There is nothing to be done, child. This is the turning of the wheel. Some will be raised up, many will be crushed. One day the war will end and we will forget and grow happy.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett. Now I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes. It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987. Lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos, it was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
Why? Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
for my Scottish ancestors, given to silence, internal coil, waiting the outside. Fear is still alive, for we will show ourselves and then hide. I went into the water. And swam to the end of the world. I thought about drowning myself, but it would do no good. At least I have a choice. A lot of people don't. Greater depths than depression have tried to take my life. Freedom, freedom! Cast back the tide! I've changed my mind. It's never easy. In life, I will try. They're taken to the city, the fist of frowns, the tinsel-backed toads and the laughing clowns. They're on in the city on all night. Come for sex or come for a fight. And they had mean heads. I can't take the lonesome one, 'cause they're not the only one. The ones, some soft, have been hardened by time. Oh, pure life and imperfect eyes. I am in possession of my own needs that fold. Divided in thirds, my body's been torn. Who do they think they are? Taking up the colours, then ripping them apart. Obvious in general. Order your strength. Bounded by wire in the way that you think. Your monarchy's dead. And they've all got ugly heads. I have seen the soul, the center of my world. I have seen the soul, the center of my eyes. You warn me about the evil in Satan's child. You warn me about the coming of night. You warn me about temptation and my trips into hell. Ghost ancestor with pride, well, I need your help. Laddie, everyone has their own course. I'm talking like Sean fucking Connery. Well, at least I'm grey as well. You want to get kneecap? Thank you for interrupting me.
Quite alright.
Let it. Everyone has their own course. Find your spiritual self. Any possessions gained should be accepted when lost. First of the earth, first of the dirt, reclaim my heart and set it adrift. I was dispossessed in my search. Now I know you. Now I know who you were. I'm glad you held a strong head and given me faith in life.
I've got a very short poem about eating, and it's called I Eat. I eat. I push past the non-hunger, the numbered streamers and measured confetti. I allow the cobwebs their despotism in the empty moulds of accomplishment. I step over the fallen goalposts. Her, them, me. I explode from my own silhouette, carefully tempering, carefully marshalling the perfect shrug. I pick up my knife and fork. Thank you.
After over 25 years of broadcasting into homes across Australia, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to switch off community television stations by June 30 this year. Community television provides an open access, free-to-air platform for Australians to connect, to learn, to educate, to express themselves, and showcases our diverse and vibrant local communities. But on July 1, it will be gone from the airways forever. Instead, it will be replaced by up to 5 years of white noise. The federal government has no alternative planned use for the spectrum community TV occupies and will be unable to do anything in its place for years to come. There is no upside and no explanation. We ask Minister Fletcher to show his support for the remaining stations and to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
Stop! Hold it right there. Have you done your pool safety check? Maintain the barriers, check the gate, and never leave anything that can be climbed on near the fence. Have you brushed up on your CPR skills? And don't tempt kids with toys. Tidy up.
Is that all?
When kids are around the pool, keep watch. They need your attention all the time. Okay, in we go.
Download your free home pool safety checklist and help Royal Lifesaving make this weekend your home pool safety weekend.
For over 80 years, the Royal Flying Doctor Service has been providing a mantle of safety across our vast land. Last year alone, they attended to more than 250,000 patients and flew over 23 million kilometres. That's the equivalent of flying to the moon and back every fortnight. Whether it's an emergency rescue, delivery of urgent medical supplies, or an air ambulance transfer to a major city hospital, the Flying Doctor is always out there for everyone. Let's keep it that way. Donations to the Royal Flying Doctor Service can be made online, by cheque or by calling the number on your screen now. All donations over $2 are tax deductible. So please give generously and help keep the doctor flying.
I'll do a poem for my sister Lily who's not here today, but my other family is. You know, your cousins. Hey. The rockin' cradle, mother, father and child. Felili Lecky. And this I wrote when Gabriella was born, the first of her 3 daughters. Out of the darkness to an illuminated circle. Spotlight on your mother and father joined as one. Gently rocking you in their arms. Wondering how you'll grow. You'll be beautiful or creative. Slightly both. It's in your blood. Future hope. Sweet baby, sweet baby. One day I'd like to hold your hand walking in the Edinburgh Gardens and read you my poems and hear you call me uncle.
Grant McCracken, in the same year that he founded these readings, in 94, he was one of 7 poets who went to America. I was one. And we had a fantastic time. And this is just 2 short poems. This is a poem from Texas. Frank at the Pecan. At the Pecan Cafe Blanco, Texas, he was standing at the microphone singing with his guitar. His bushy wild side whiskers down to his chin, his long grey hair, 6'4", 10-gallon hat, vests, boots, jeans, neck string, and bolo. It's there. He was singing about his grandfather's life as a cowboy, about disappearing railroad ties, Longhorn ranches, Mississippi River, and Cajun queens. I was more than a little awestruck. The first real cowboy I'd ever met. Frank has a drawl as long and wide as the Texan skyline. In fact, he didn't talk. He stretched, twanged, sang, played his voice like a slide guitar. His eyes gleamed as he spoke to me. The way he looked at me, I felt like chicken dripping with honey. It was organised I stay the night at his ranch, and he said to me, I'm going to take you a long ways down the road, about 2 miles or so. Then we're going to take a little turn to the left where the road gets mighty narrow. Then we're going to take another little turn to a rocky trail, and you'll drive with me in the pickup truck. I was shivering in my shoes. I could see the headline. Australian poet disappears in the Wimberley Hills of Austin, Texas. Search parties fail to find any trace. Now, I hadn't heard then of his partner Jane. It was so late. I was so very pleased to meet his lady. Thank you.
I want to meet a spunky punk chick who's creative with a razor on her hair and not her wrist. She wears tartan and leather with well-placed pins and zips. She's got volumes of attitude and swears like a banshee with pouting lips. She's a work of art. Her body is a canvas with tattoos all over her ass and piercings and studs in public and private parts. I want to meet a spunky punk chick who's cool, playing pool and drinking beer. Her accents fits royalty with a Scottish snare. Her boots are made for stomping. Those cherry reds. Yeah! I want to meet a spunky punk chick. Oh yeah!
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
Hi, I'm Leonardo Puglisi from the 6 News team. In these tough times, it's important to keep your family and your friends safe by listening to government regulations. Avoid outdoor activity with the exception of exercise and getting essential items, as well as medical care. Remember, we're all in this together.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Well, we're up here on the rooftop for the Adelphi. It's an exclusive invitation only. God knows how I got here. I gate crashed for the fabulous fashion show up here. It's Amani.
I want you to put your hands together and just put your left to side.
Going to move through the crowd. We're going to socialise. Going to have a look what's going up on the roof. I think we've got the hair man. Stavros, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. You've been doing a bit of hair?
Lots of hair today.
Lots of hair?
This whole week, any more hair?
So
I
you
don't
did
know what
today
to
as
do
well?
with it. And today, actually,
Are you getting over it?
Oh, never get over hair. No,
Love hair.
I love it. I love working with the kids. I love the fashion, working with models and all of that.
You go overseas, see what's going on over there, and then come back here and dictate it, or?
We have a lot of direction from there, yes, but we are very creative here. But we do have creative directors like Kenneth Stoddart that direct a lot of it, so it's fantastic, really. Yes.
What have you done today for the models?
Today it was actually the other partner that did the job.
Oh, okay. You
yes,
step back. You supervise.
Yes. Actually, I was running the show at the other end at the Regent.
Is it hard doing hair? Because everybody's hair this year is all very different. No one's doing the same look. It's about individual styles and cuts.
As long as the designers, as long as you have a good direction with the designers, I think it's not that hard at all.
There's no uniformity this year. It's all.
It's more
you can be long, short, whatever goes.
Absolutely, and I think that's what it's all about anyway.
And you're gone short.
Mine, it's very short.
Very short. I think no, can't say a thing. Not one hair.
But you must say, there's not one hair out of place either,
no,
right?
not at all.
Perfect.
Oh, an old hairdresser's joke. The rooftop here, pretty exclusive event, the Armani show. You did the makeup?
We did, we all did, all the Mac girls.
Proud job?
Yeah, it was good, it was good.
So what was the overall look that you were trying to get?
We were looking for a really dewy skin, something fresh with fresh dewy lips.
Yes, that woman with the red lips, they look like they were stuck on.
Quick stain lip.
Well, who did the lips of that one? Whose fault? Is yours responsible?
I'm responsible for
what, 5 layers or so, is it? Yeah?
Lip gloss, yeah.
Of gloss, so gloss is still in.
Lipstick, very in.
Now I noticed the guys had a bit of rouge on.
Oh, no, they just have nice high cheekbones.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
right. You're telling me that they don't use makeup, are you?
No, they've got no makeup on. They're
no, get out of
free.
here. Bronzing powder.
Yeah, it's
right.
not
That's a model secret, really. I have got nothing on. Make me over. So how many shows have you been doing through the week?
We've done about 2 to 3 this week.
So pretty cash then.
It's been pretty cash, but it's been good. A lot of different styles, a lot of different fashions. We did the Gwendolyn one on Monday night.
Yes, thanks for the lipstick. Thank you very much. Complimentary lipstick, yep.
What did you think of the parade? Did you like it?
It's actually very unusual. Great ambience of a place to have well, her style of fashion would suit that church very much so.
You like the makeup?
Of course, it was a Mac makeup, a Mac moment. How could we not?
Use lipstick.
Can't you tell? Don't you know your own lipstick?
We cater for such an amazing cross-section of people, and I really love that urban corporate.
You've probably seen it all here in Melbourne, from every week to every year.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on fashion?
At the moment, I think it's highlighting Australia. everyone needs to have something Australian in their wardrobe.
Absolutely.
Because it's such a multicultural element that if you don't have something there, I think you're missing out.
Yep.
You can't have that international label wearing you totally. You've got to have a part of what's happening here.
You've got to
in
mix and match.
You've got to mix and match, but you've got to mix it because it says something about your climate. It says something about going out with friends and people and wearing someone's label. It says something about you as a person, I think.
I mean, I'm finding the whole week been really fabulous, but, you know, you've got your commercialised shows, which are pretty mainstream, pretty boring, and then you've got your young designers are so edgy. How does it... I mean, why bother with this sort of, you know, hierarchy system?
Well, the thing is, the hierarchy system is fun because, okay, every girl wants a Louis Vuitton handbag or a Chanel little number, but she doesn't mind wearing it under a little Gwendolyn number or a little tie number. It's a sort of status thing, and it also it's quality versus casual, everyday, seasonal. A bag is not a seasonal thing; it's a long-term investment.
So what's it saying? I still have the money to buy the power items, but yet I still want to dress quite cash.
No, it's saying I want to dress casual. I want to wear it for the next couple of months. I want to give it up, and I want to wear something else. But I still want maybe that top leather jacket, that top denim skirt, or whatever.
Sit down beside me. There's something I gotta ask you. I just wanna know, what are you gonna do for me? I mean, if you're the female, I just want you to know that we can still be friends.
How long can you keep a label item in the wardrobe before it's past its expiry date, you know?
The more it wears, probably the more you love it.
Okay.
And the way it wears, if you really love it and you've had good sex out of it or whatever, I think you keep it for a while, trust me.
Okay, so a Gautier or a Versace type you can have in the wardrobe for a very long time?
Yeah, excuse me, can we say hello and goodbye to Versace? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
no.
He's gone?
No.
Tell her?
As in the last play I saw at some place in Smith Street, they called him Versace Cha. It's for me, it's a little bit passé. I have to be honest with you. No, I'm honest.
Well, there you go. I've got the fashion guru here, wrapped it all up in one hit, I think.
But no, it's been a great festival.
It has.
I absolutely love it, and I love the fact that it interests people in what you're wearing, what you're all about,
Absolutely.
and it's connecting personalities, and that's what we all are. We're all characters that want to play games together, and that's what we do.
I tell you what, it's getting more involved every year I do it. Like, this is our third year we've covered, and it's just more people are getting into it, more people are discovering it, and it's probably making Melbourne really strong now. We don't want it to go to Sydney.
Yeah, well, it's about physiology. It's about presentation. We are attracted to one another by what we wear. That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
I'm not saying much today then, am I?
No, we are. No, I mean, a smile is one thing, but what you're wearing, there's a sense of attraction, and we all love it. And it is a talking
I'm not getting any. I need a new wardrobe.
You'll get something, don't worry. But I mean, you'll get something.
I'll have to get a new wardrobe and a few more drinks.
Talking about shit down a bit. About how you gonna make pussy a style if she come and sing a lick on his head. He said, nigga, you crazy if you don't know.
We're going down the walk. We're going to have a look. We've got AG, we've got Sam, we've got Roy, we've got everything going down here. This is one of the biggest shows to hit Melbourne Fashion Week. It's the men's collection. Going through the dresses already. You ready to dress?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You put your hand up for this job, didn't you?
Yeah, of course.
All these gorgeous guys.
No, we're here for the clothes.
Yeah, right. You're here for the guys then, aren't you?
Of course.
And who are you dressing?
Marima.
Marimel. What does he look like?
He's the best. Yes.
He's the best.
Yep.
Do you have to tuck everything in for them?
Yes.
So you grope and do all that while they get the
No, not
chance?
grope, but tuck in, yes.
Yeah, okay. Does he dress left or right? What is your you're doing Daniel?
Daniel, I don't know what he looks like.
Does he dress left to the left or the right?
I don't know.
Of this side of this stand.
I think
What were you thinking?
Shoe first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. You're doing everything. I saw you polishing shoes. What's going on?
Oh, it's just what you got to do.
Madness before the show.
It is madness.
So you ready for this collection?
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Veterans
fun.
now. Yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. Yeah.
You getting out there yourself?
Myself? No. I like to be backstage.
Backstage.
That's
the backstage boy.
Yeah, fully.
Yeah, corner over there. Nice dark
That's my
one.
corner. Actually, no, that'll be my corner. Watching the TV.
Yes, watching it all on the monitor. You have to tune into the show and watch it.
Exactly.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Remember your lines.
Oh,
don't forget your lines. Excuse me. What does it feel like when you see your stuff out there on the runway?
Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's great fun. It's sort of the small part of the glamorous side of the fashion industry.
You have a bit of glamour because you got to walk out the end. Do you hate that or do you like
it's
that?
all right. The first time I did it, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be like nerve-wracking. But you get out there and you do it. Actually, last time I brought Mimi on the stage.
Oh, really?
I whipped her out of the audience and said, come on, you're coming with me.
Now, do you think people obviously they're going to look at the way you're dressing when you walk out there too? It becomes a bit of a trend these days. They're walking out there just with other labels or
No, I'm wearing my own thing. Yeah, have to wear your own thing, but just very, casual, easy. Yeah,
looking very neat and good.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's easy. You've got to sort of look yourself, and
I reckon we should start a new trend and get the designers walking out there as well.
With the whole outfit.
Yeah,
and done
modelling
up and
as
all
well. We should get you out there. Just one little outfit.
Next time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do that next year. We need drama. We're going down there. Oh, curling wand. Is that a Weller curl going on here?
They're all wearing that.
What's with the Weller curl?
Well, we're curling because the curls are in.
But he's naturally curly, isn't he?
He is naturally curly, but we're reinforcing
Look at
it
this.
with a bit of a time.
Because curls get the girls.
Oh, the curl.
Girls get the girls.
The girls get the girls. Are we going bare feet today, or?
No, we're going to be wearing a bit of colourful Dunlop Folly. Dunlop.
Gold, in fact.
Gold.
Gold shoes.
Go for gold.
Just as well they're not Nike, because you'd have them all protesting out the front or something.
Yeah, don't worry, I had the hose out before. I was getting rid of a few of the protesters.
Oh, okay. Don't slip out there. The runways are really slippery. gone mad. It's getting crazy. We've got the hair thing going on. This happens to be one of the biggest sellout event of the year. Last year, Fashion Week was mediocre. This year, it's sold out. Absolutely sold out. Now, you're doing the hair again.
Yeah, here.
You seem to be here at every fashion show.
Number 10.
Now, what's going on with the look? Lots of curls, I'm noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. So
what's with the curls?
Well, the brief tonight's just very, very natural. Just
you straight normally?
Yeah.
You mean hair-wise?
Yeah, hair-wise.
I thought you mean sexual style-wise.
No. That you don't have to reveal.
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
Hair-wise.
Oh, hair-wise. I'm losing it now.
No, it's a nice
you confused me.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've...
He's having a ball though. He's running his fingers through your hair and it's just divine.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, didn't they tell you about that?
No, it's
Can't trust them. So the look in average?
Well, this is a different look where we've gone for the curl. This has been the first time since I can remember that we've actually done curl in the men's
really?
hair. Normally we're either straightening it out or getting lots of jagged textures, but it'll be really nice to see it on the catwalk.
Absolutely. Well, great. We'll see those curls and see those girls following you. Pardon me. You're apparently the favourite model.
Not me, bro.
Yeah, you're it. They're all talking about you. You're going to be up there, the billboard, the whole lot.
The stars, brother, with the stars. Nah, there's a lot of beautiful girls, a lot of awesome dudes out throughout the week, so yeah.
Is that why you're here, for the beautiful girls? You just find this one here? Did you two meet here?
We did actually.
See what goes on backstage? Just crazy.
Squirrel, bro.
Where do I find one? Where do you score like that? Where do you go? You've got to hang out back here. Models, I'm here. Not dressed for this occasion, but we're at the Moe and Shandon Ball. This is one of the grandest things to happen here at Fashion Week. Sensational night. The who's who of who are absolutely here, and we'll see if we can have a talk to all the famous people. This is what Melbourne's about. You're having a sensational night, aren't you? You're up there singing as well.
It's been a great night for a great cause for ovarian cancer, which is wonderful. Yeah,
absolutely. Now you're starring in Jolson. How did you get that part?
Well, I've done it before. I did it 2 years ago. We're just waiting for theatre availability here in Melbourne, and I'm also doing the Music Man just before it. So,
okay.
Very busy year.
So keeping yourself very occupied there.
I think so. Yeah.
Now, how long does it have to take for you to warm up? I mean, you've done it before, so you'd probably know it know-it-all already.
No, you can never say you know it all. I've got a 2-week period, a 3-week period of rehearsals before we open with Jolson.
Yep.
But I got to look at Music Man before that, and this was really like it's a major launch because it's just everybody that's anybody is actually here tonight, which is great.
Yep.
Great to be part of it, and being back in Melbourne is great. But I always love it when I'm back. I love the restaurants and the theatre and everything that's here. There's a real cultural thing about Melbourne, and I think Jolson is a Melbourne show, so it's going to be a great thing to be part of. Yeah.
Out of all the shows that are out there, especially in the West End, what's your ideal show that you would love to do?
At the moment?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's a tough one. Jolson's not playing at the moment, but Jolson is the next thing to do. There's not really a show that's on the horizon that is new that's coming out at the moment that I would really like to. Maybe Kiss Me Kate.
Kiss Me Kate. Oh, that's a bit fun.
Maybe. Yeah, different show.
Yeah,
be a fun
different.
thing to do.
Do you look for something that's a bit different, cross-boarding?
Yeah, because I've done a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So all the shows that I've done, it's good to do something a little bit different. But Kiss Me Kate's doing stuff on Broadway, and it's great in the West End, and maybe it'll be here by the end of the year.
It has been the most unbelievable evening.
Your first night to do this?
First night to do this. This is our 3rd year involvement with Melbourne Fashion Festival, but the first year for the ball, so it's fantastic.
Now I noticed there's pears being served. You're eating. What are you eating?
I'm having
Yogurt?
a double. I'm having a double helping of the Haagen-Dazs.
Oh, which has been a great sponsor of Fashion Week, I must say, and
yes.
I've probably had about 5 tubs a day.
Yes, it's been fantastic. It's gorgeous.
Every flavour.
Creamy.
And what about the entertainment tonight?
Fantastic. Rob Guest,
Yes.
his voice was sensational. And I can't wait for Rebecca Weinberg.
Oh, yes. You're going to get up there and move and groove with the rest of them?
Well, yes, I'm not the classical dancer type.
No,
so I'm sure
you've
I'll
been
sort
sitting
of,
out.
Absolutely.
Passing up all those guys that have got the suits and going, I'm sorry, you can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's my husband.
So what made you come then this time around?
Well, we're a major sponsor.
Yes.
This year, Amiga.
Amiga?
Yes,
Yep.
Amiga watches have been a sponsor for Melbourne Fashion
I didn't receive my
Festival.
watch.
You will. You will.
Oh,
Yes,
it's in the post?
No, you cut this up. Absolutely.
So if you want to watch for free, you can watch this show all you like for nothing, really.
No, this is our 3rd year of involvement with Melbourne Fashion Festival, and we supported the Amiga New Designer Award.
Okay,
with Tony Medichevsky, who has designed an unbelievable piece of jewellery for the evening with the Torres, which has been fantastic. So it's really
success.
it's been great. It's wonderful self-promotion of the brand, but also
Absolutely.
two of the designers.
What's going on? I think we're having a bit of a drama here. Now, is this what are we trying to do here? Is it working?
It's working for me.
It is draped in pearls. Now, did Jeff buy this for you?
I think he bought it for himself, but I wouldn't
really?
have it for myself. Yeah.
For yourself. How many pearls on that thing? Now look at this. We're having far too much fun. Do you always drape her in pearls and jewellery?
No, very rarely.
Normally in diamonds.
In diamonds.
Normally in diamonds, and tonight pearls.
Pearls, and dining and champagne. It's all happening here at the ball.
Love it.
Not on the money scene, but you know.
Oh yeah, but I love just being out there and working and doing the gigs. You know.
Well, thanks so much for taking out the time and enjoy the night. Don't eat too many chocolate. Oh, I'm having a ball.
Yeah, we're stealing chocolate.
It is a ball.
We're stealing chocolate.
Are you stealing all the chocolate? Fill up your pockets. Take a chocolate. Everybody have a chocolate. Thanks so
There's a
much.
little message inside which shows
okay.
what you do, so.
What is your message?
Oh, I have no idea.
Can't read. It's too small. We're all too drunk.
Absolutely.
I mean, as if you can read that this time of day.
Read it in a couple of days' time. You'll be right.
Just make it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Get active, get social, get on a roll. For more info, visit skateaustralia.org.au.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to order some pathology tests to see how everything's going.
Half the Australian population had a pathology test last year. That's you or someone you love. 100 tests are performed every minute, delivering vital medical information. From the moment you are born, your healthcare depends on pathology tests. 70% of medical decisions rely on information from pathology tests. Pathology is the engine room of healthcare. One small sample can reveal millions of insights all about you. Pathologists are your doctor's doctor. 25,000 people work to provide doctors with the answers they need to treat you. Australian pathology is world class. We may never meet you, but we see each of you as part of our family. Every minute, 23 Australians find out more about their health.
Good news, Sarah, the results show that everything's okay.
Pathology provides peace of mind.
I rely on Australian pathology.
Sign up online to support Australian pathology.
After over 25 years of broadcasting into homes across Australia, the Minister for Communications, Paul Fletcher, intends to switch off community television stations by June 30 this year. Community television provides an open access, free-to-air platform for Australians to connect, to learn, to educate, to express themselves, and showcases our diverse and vibrant local communities. But on July 1, it will be gone from the airways forever. Instead, it will be replaced by up to 5 years of white noise. The federal government has no alternative planned use for the spectrum community TV occupies and will be unable to do anything in its place for years to come. There is no upside and no explanation. We ask Minister Fletcher to show his support for the remaining stations and to keep local TV on TV. For more information, email info@c31.org.au.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.